Hi everyone, Eric Stocklin again with Charter Bay Home Builders, and this is our third video in our video series on Chinese drywall remediation. And today we're going to talk about how do you now make the determination that you have Chinese drywall in your home. We're making the assumption that if you're watching these videos, you most likely have Chinese drywall and you most likely have already made the determination, but we don't really think our series would be complete without going through some of the highlights of how you make the determination. So the first thing is if your home was built or remodeled between 2001 and 2008. That's the window of time that Chinese drywall was being imported into the country and was actually being installed. So that's your first criteria that you're looking for. The next thing you're looking for is blackening of copper and silver in your home. The elemental sulfur in Chinese drywall actually causes the coppers and the silvers to corrode. The copper gets a copper sulfide on it, the silver gets a silver sulfide on it. Both of them are black. So what you can do is you can remove a switch cover plate and you can look at the ground wire because the ground wire doesn't have any insulation on it. What you're looking to see is if it's copper colored, then it's not experiencing corrosion. If it's black, then it is exhibiting signs that are typical of Chinese drywall. You can also look at your air conditioning unit, your indoor air handler. You can take the front panel off of that unit and look at the coils, which are the copper tubes within that unit. The telltale sign of a Chinese drywall home is that they've turned black. So you've got your electric wiring, you can check there. You've got your air conditioning coil, your evaporator coil. You also have things like jewelry. Sometimes jewelry will turn. In the home we're working on right now, the door stops that are used to prevent a door from denting the drywall, those were really thick with copper sulfide because the metal was copper, and if you wiped your finger on it, it just came off black. So those are some of the things that you look for that are the telltale signs. The other thing that is usually the trigger that makes people start to question what's going on with their home is that your air conditioning unit fails, the interior AC coil of your air handler fails. And I've heard as many as 6 or 7 failures. By the second time, the third time, people are starting to wonder, okay, what's going on with my house? So if your air conditioning unit has failed, that's another sign that you may be dealing with something that's causing enough corrosion that it's failing that system. The next thing that you'll look for, which is another telltale sign, is a smell. When you come into a home that has Chinese drywall, it has a rotten egg smell, and sometimes it has like a burnt match smell. And it's usually fairly obvious, it's apparent. Some people can't even stay in the home because it's so strong. So you've got that odor within a house that is a pretty telltale sign if you've got Chinese drywall or not. Then there are the health effects. Some people say that they suffer from nosebleeds, recurring headaches, asthma issues, those kinds of things. So if you're suffering from health effects that you didn't experience before you moved into that home, that may be another sign. Now the next thing you're going to want to do, if you've gone through that list and you've determined that your house meets some of those conditions, you're going to want some sort of concrete evidence. And unfortunately, the only way to really do that is to actually find a piece of drywall that actually says Chinese drywall on it. It'll say made in China, it'll say NOF, which is a manufacturer. It depends, where the Chinese drywall came from. The thing that we recommend is first go up into your attic and just poke around a little bit. If you've got blown insulation, move a little bit of it around. See if you can see any markings. If you've got batt insulation, it's a little bit more difficult, but you can actually pull that up and look around. That will be the easiest way to determine whether or not you have it. Now, the caution here is that you're not likely to find it. And the reason is that ceiling board is different than Chinese board. So if the builder did your home correctly, there should not be any Chinese drywall in your ceiling. Unfortunately, like in the home we're doing right now, it took me all of maybe 4 seconds to find made in China. I walked into the second-story laundry room, I took down the attic stairs, walked up into the attic, looked at a spot, just turned and said, okay, I'll start there. I moved the insulation, and right there it said made in China. That was really pure luck, but you might want to try it, just see what you can find. The next thing you're going to do is that if you don't find any evidence upstairs in your attic is Choose a small room in your house. Choose a utility closet. Choose your air handler closet. Don't choose a space that's adjacent to your garage, because your garage is going to have fire-rated board in it. So you don't want to minimize your chances of finding Chinese drywall. So choose a space that's away from the garage area. Once you choose that space, take a keyhole saw, which is made to cut drywall, and cut a pretty big section. Cut a 4 foot by 4 foot by 4, 4 by 4 section out and remove it. Hopefully, on that piece of board, it'll have some sort of a distinguishing mark on it. If not, the flip board that you'll now be able to see the back side of, which is the adjacent room's drywall, hopefully that will have something. And if either of those do not, you can still look up now into the cavity with a flashlight, and you can see this side of the board and that side. So those 4 spaces should be able to yield a marking. If you're still living in the home, if your air conditioning system is still on, you then want to take that board and put it back into place. And temporarily, you can just tape it so that it's in place and it's set. And then finally, now that you've gone through, you've made the determination, hopefully you've been able to find a piece of drywall that says made in China, the next thing that you want to do is have that piece of drywall tested. And the first caution that I've got to put out here is that there are a great deal of scams right now. There's Chinese drywall blood in the water, and the sharks are circling. The Florida State Attorney General has actually issued a warning consumers against fraudulent scams and marketing that are saying that they have tests for Chinese drywall, they have cures for Chinese drywall. We'll get into the cure claims in our next video, but just for now, be aware that the testing agencies out there, a lot of them are fraudulent. They have claims that haven't been substantiated. They're going to take large sums of money from you, and for the most part, they're not going to give you results that are conclusive. So you have to be really, really careful. What you want to do with that piece of board is send it off to a credited testing agency, an actual laboratory. And what they'll do is they'll test it for elemental sulfur. They may test for other things like strontium, but the main thing they're looking for is elemental sulfur. From that, you'll have a piece of board that said it was from China. You will have it at a testing laboratory, and they'll tell you how much elemental sulfur is being off-gassed from that piece, and then you know really what you're dealing with. I spoke a little bit about the fraudulent tests. There are air tests that are legitimate. The problem with Chinese drywall is that the standards that they have for elemental sulfur are in the parts per millions. Chinese drywall homes are actually emitting and are testing, or not testing, I should say, in the parts per billions. So it's very difficult to get an accurate air test from a home that is conclusive in any way. The main thing you want to do is have a hard piece of drywall, get it tested for elemental sulfur, and then you know. So hopefully this list of items has been helpful. In the next video, we're going to go into, now that you've determined you have Chinese drywall, what do you do about it? And that will be next time. Till then, Eric with Charter Bay.